Welcome everyone to another news show where our news is like everyone else's but worse. My name is Tautona. Let's get into some headlines. Big blow against the patriarchy as South African men can now change their surnames to their wives.
Now to this, in a major blow to patriarchy, 2 husbands have been granted the legal right to adopt their wives' surnames. The men took the case to the High Court after they were told the Home Affairs system did not allow it.
Yes, you heard that right, South Africa. Men can now take their wives' surnames. The Bloemfontein High Court allowed 2 Free State men to take their wives' surnames after the husband challenged the Births and Registration Act of the Constitution. According to the Act, only women were previously allowed to assume their spouse's surname after marriage. One couple cited sentimental reasons for wanting the husband to take the wife's surname, while the other wanted a hyphenated name for the husband. And honestly, good for them. Marriages are a celebration of love and happiness, as well as looking back on oversized suits and wondering if Andile Bisani did not have a tailor. Chairman. Anyway, the court found that the exclusion of men in having the right to change these surnames to that of their wives perpetuates outdated patriarchal norms and violates the right to gender equality. Of course, in South Africa, there have been people who have spoken out against this, claiming that it's a threat to their culture. I have something to say to those people. You don't have to change your surname, okay? It's perfectly fine if you don't want to. The law allows men to take the surname of their wives should they want to do so. It does not say that every man will now have to change their surname. The pushback is so funny because it changes nothing for most people who would want to keep the status quo and have the wife take their surname. It's like when South Africa legalized growing weed in your home. It did not mean Mamoruti Joyce would suddenly have the urge to spark up one and celebrate 420, but it meant that Sipho from Block 7 did not have to worry about police finding his garden flower or flower garden while he's visiting his baby mama. Also, quick one, Mama Joyce, if you want to smoke some, it's okay. Life is difficult, the kids are at varsity, that the Moruti hasn't touched you in a while, and that Stockville Treasurer's phone is off lately. Take a break. You deserve it. In other news, Pretoria Girls High is in the news again. And that's news that shocked no one. And I wonder what it is about this time.
There's also an allegation that white educators here at the school do not greet their fellow black educators. And when this was questioned, the response was that it is because the white educators do not know whether the black educators are cleaners or educators here at the school.
Of course, some white teachers from the school voted worst school to take your child to by racistschools.com have been exposed for not greeting their black colleagues because they thought they were cleaners, as if the alternative makes it even better. Essentially, black teachers at the school were treated like a pundit who had just criticized Ronaldo.
Doing his best. We need to send him back to doing his best.
The main man is here tonight.
Glad you're listening to me.
Cristiano Ronaldo on the bench, of course, for Manchester United tonight.
The claim comes from an investigation conducted by the Gauteng Department of Education, which probed allegations of alleged racism after 2 white girls were suspended for racism, right? And I should legally tell you this, that the girls were cleared of wrongdoing by the SGB, but I won't tell you that. But I think I legally should, right? And this is not the first time Pretoria Girls High School has been in the news after receiving international attention for telling black students to straighten their hair and not allow afros. All of that is the reason why we've compiled a checklist for parents to consider when looking for a school for their kids, right? The first thing is academic programs and curriculum, class size and teacher ratio, distance from Basta 929's house, and the fact that teachers reach each other and they're not racist. Like, that's the bare minimum. And that's a free list for you parents out there, right? In other news, right, Stilfontein miners are still underground as of this now. We now switch our attention to an ongoing situation at Stilfontein when estimated 4,500 illegal miners are underground. Initial reports are unclear on whether they're stuck underground or not coming up because of the fear of being arrested. This comes after police launched the aptly named Operation Valomgodi, where police and members of the army have been closing the shaft of disused mines to force illegal miners to come out of the surface. They've also been disrupting supply lines, confiscating food and other items meant for those underground. Tangent here, but can you appreciate the efforts of the unpaid intern that came up with that name? Thank you for not letting the serious nature of your job kill the creative spirit. We await more of your genius puns. Anyway, South Africans have been fiercely debating whether food and water should be blocked by police. One segment of the population, pronounced middle class, believes that regardless of their crimes, they should not be starved. And another group believes that police and government are under no obligation to feed and keep the criminals alive. This is the time we look to our leaders and seek guidance, right? We want them to tell us what to do. What wisdom do you have in confusing times like this? What should we do?
We're not sending help to criminals. We're going to smoke them out. They will come out. We're not sending help to criminals. Criminals are not to be helped. Criminals are to be persecuted.
Yo, that's insane. That's the Minister in the Presidency, Kumbuzo Nchaveni, saying that the government will smoke out the miners. To be fair, however, the people underground will be grateful that the president is not getting involved. As we know, our president knows a thing or two about smoking out miners. Anyway, in other news, Trump goes 2-0 against female candidates. In news that, again, shocked no one, Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris in the race to the Oval Office, becoming the 47th president of the United States and stretching his record to 2-0 against female candidates. Trump absolutely dominated the race, winning 312 electoral college votes to Harris's 226. He also won the popular vote with a margin of over 3 million votes, proving that all you need to do is grab him by the ballot. Right, quick tangent here again, right? Yes, the electoral college. And this is a different college, not the one your cousin went to, which is now a hair salon in the CBD, the American system one. Very briefly, this is how it works. When an American votes for president, they aren't actually voting for the president, you're voting for a group of people called electors, who then vote for the president on your behalf. It's kind of like ordering a pizza only for the restaurant to ask your neighbor, what do you want? It's a very weird system, and as the epitome of democracy, as I must put it. The kicker here is that different states have different number of electors based on reasons such as population and the number of seats in Congress, right? For most states in the US, an outright win in the state means that they can get all of the state's electors. Generally, a total of 270 electors is needed to win the elections. The entire thing is complicated and weird. I'm sure you can find another video on YouTube that explains it better. Use your own data. We are not going to advertise it here. But in no less than Trumpy fashion, the US president called out mainstream American media in his acceptance speech, referring to them as the enemy camp. And if you think we're going to go hard on Trump because he's a billionaire president and we need these donations, you are sorely mistaken. Yeah. And wrapping up, we have news about taxis. The one thing that Twitter will tell you never to fetch a baddie with, right? So essentially, the South African National Taxi Association has warned motorists to avoid picking up hitchhikers on taxi routes. This comes after a recent confrontation in Mpumalanga where taxi patrollers allegedly drove off with a motorist car demanding 2,500 to release it after he offered to give his neighbor a lift. In an interview with Newsroom Africa's hard-hitting journalist and all-around hunk, Tolingambi, SANTACO chairman in Mpumalanga, Fanyana Sibanyoni, said motorists need to ask for permission for cars to give them family members a lift.
Are people who own cars allowed to give hitchhikers a lift?
No, they are not allowed. It's our business. They are infringing our rights because we are taxi operators with permit to load passengers. But people cannot just pick up people because they're not taxis.
If it's a family member, if it is my family member that I'm giving a lift to work.
How do you see your family member on the street?
So I'm supposed to confirm to you that this is my family member and somehow
as I was saying, every company's got securities. If you see there's a family member is hiking there and you see there's a patrol car, just stop your car, go to the security guy and explain to them to say, this is my family member, please allow me to pick that person. I don't think they'll give you a problem.
Police have denied this and asserted that no one has the right to enforce this rule, so they should be reported if this happens, right? So we as ANS decided we need to investigate this issue, knock on doors, try some leads and track these things to find out what the real truth is. In a Wilder exclusive, we're going to give you a leaked video of what seems to be SANTACO working with the crisis management team about what they should do. Take a look.
Good evening, fellow South Africans. My name is Mzokolo Bari, the progressive, unapologetic national spokesperson for SANTACO, here to set the record straight once and for all. First of all, let's talk about the so-called controversy over motorists giving lifts. Let me be clear. Your car, your fuel, our routes. If you want to give your neighbor or cousin or baby daddy a lift, you'll have to kneel before the taxi security guard and ask for permission. We live in a society of rules. Those are our roots. As Tupac said, we run these streets, man. Some of you are upset, calling us bullies and extortionists for enforcing our rights and impounding cars. This is simply called open road regulation. Why? Because for every one passenger you take in your private car, that's one less taxi fare for hardworking, law-abiding taxi drivers. Daily Sun released statistics that report that one less taxi passenger means that 3 children of taxi drivers go to bed hungry. Now I know you might think of yourself as a good Samaritan who wants to help their neighbor, but you are contributing to child hunger. You are not solving the problem. Speaking of neighbors, we have set up a toll-free number to call if you suspect your marquee of being a meter taxi or Samaritan busy giving out lifts. Call us on 078-994-9383. That's 078-994-9383. If you are caught giving someone a lift, expect a 2,500 rands fine. No exceptions. Family, friends, ghosts, it doesn't matter. If they can walk to the hiking spot, then they can surely walk to the taxi rank. And if you refuse to pay, I'm sure you won't mind if our patrollers kindly borrow your vehicle. For so long, taxis have been the backbone of South African society and have been disrespected by people who buy cars and say things like, the taxi lost a customer today, while holding their Picanto keys. We will keep getting you to work on time by overtaking traffic dangerously, forcing you to give other passengers change, and asking you to hold the door so it won't fall off. So, dear South Africans, the next time you think of giving someone a lift, remember, SANTACO is watching you. Why walk when you can hail a taxi? And why question us when you can simply obey? Thank you, and don't forget to pay your ticket.
Yeah, that is from us at ANS. I've been Lester Tautona. Our international correspondent Chester Hillbrow, no relation, will take over with what is happening in Mozambique. Can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you, Lester. Today we are going to take a look at Mozambique's 2024 national elections, which declared the ruling party's candidate Daniel Chapo as the winner. These elections have sparked controversy and widespread unrest. Chapo reportedly won the elections by great margins, receiving over 70% of the total vote. Opposition's group claim that the election was rigged and demand an investigation into alleged irregularities that have sparked the violence. Take a look at the clip. The alleged rigging of the election has led to unrest and protest in the country, with the capital city of Maputo being a hotspot for clashes between police and protesters. It is very important to note here that the protests have largely been peaceful. However, in true African fashion, they have been met with force from the police. Before we go any further into the story, let's just try understand what Frelimo is. Okay? The Frelimo party is the Mozambican Liberation Front, which was founded in 1962 as a liberation movement to fight against Portuguese colonial rule, managing to achieve independence for Mozambique in 1975 under the first leader Samora Machel. Frelimo established a socialist one-party state, which later transitioned into a multi-party democracy in 1992 after a brutal civil war with the Renamo opposition party. Okay? The Frelimo party has dominated Mozambique's political landscape since independence in 1975, consistently winning every election since the introduction of the multi-party democracy in 1994, just like our very own ANC. However, these elections have often been surrounded by allegations of irregularities, voter intimidation, and accusations of fraud, particularly from opposition parties and other smaller political parties in the country.
The hiccups include people just getting to a voting station and starting to make a noise, or starting to question the processes in which things are done, or maybe in some instances threatening the commission employees, the officials that are conducting the election there. Those are the hiccups. And the opposition in some instances are not happy with what's happening, and sometimes making a noise about it, saying that the election has been rigged, therefore they won't accept the results.
Recent elections, including the 2019 general elections, which saw President Filipe Nyusi secure a second term, have deepened public frustrations. Critics argue that Frelimo uses state resources to maintain its grip on power and suppress dissent, while Frelimo retains strong support in rural areas and amongst older generations. Urban populations and youth increasingly view the party as emblematic of corruption and stagnation, fueling calls for greater accountability and reform within the country. For a very long time, frustrations have been amplified by ongoing economic challenges, including high unemployment rates, inequality, and scandals like the hidden debt crisis, which plunged the country into financial turmoil. Additionally, Frelimo's handling of elections is often accused of lacking transparency, and it has eroded trust among citizens. While the party still commands significant loyalty in some regions, there is a growing demand for change and more inclusive governance. Okay? Now that we know all of this thing of Frelimo, think about it like the ANC, but with, actually it's just the same thing, it's just like if your brother was your brother. Now that we know all of these things about Frelimo, let's talk about these recent elections. Based on the Constitution of Mozambique, the National Electoral Commission, CNE, because of Portuguese, plays several roles before, during, and after election to ensure integrity, transparency, and promote the belief in legitimizing the electoral process. Very briefly, let's explain how this process is supposed to take place, It all begins with the CNE's objective to ensure integrity. The CNE is constitutionally designed to operate as an independent and impartial body. This includes its mandate to act without bias, even though commissioners are appointed based on political representation in parliament. The expectations of impartiality is crucial to upholding electoral integrity. The CNE's administrative arm, the Technical Secretariat for Electoral Management, appoints its staff through a public bid process based on professional qualification. This system is intended to ensure a skilled and unbiased administration of the electoral processes. The CNE has the authority to monitor the electoral process, addressing potential misconduct, fraud, and reinforce the integrity of the election, deterring corrupt practices. Here is whatever.
Mozambican police fired tear gas at hundreds of opposition supporters converging on the capital Maputo on Thursday, in the biggest demonstration yet against last month's disputed election. Human rights groups say at least 18 people have been killed in the police crackdown on protests since the October 9th vote, which extended ruling party Frelimo's 5 decades in power. Opposition parties, civil society groups and Western observers said the election was unfair and that results were altered.
The Frederick Norman Foundation for Freedom reported that during the voter registration phase, access varied across provinces' districts, resulting in notable irregularities, not only on election day, but also during pre-polling procedures. Additionally, the Club of Mozambique reported that the disinformation campaign suggested that voters that wish to vote for Renamo and other political parties to vote on the 10th of October, stating that there will be a special ballot a special ballot box for people who want to vote for opposition parties. Note that the 10th of October is the day after elections, because nothing says integrity like other people showing up to vote the day after election is closed. The second role of the CNE is to ensure transparency. To maintain transparency, the CNE is required to publish all its decisions in the State Journal, allowing the public to review its actions and decisions. The CNE allows both domestic and international observers to monitor the elections, providing a level of openness that can validate the process. Observers' access helps ensure the process aligns with international standard for transparency. Here is a clip.
Rights groups say Frelimo controls the Electoral Commission. Frelimo denies it. The Electoral Commission says it's running a free and fair poll and it's not aware of irregularities. In every district, its officials are tallying results collected from the polling stations. At this tally centre, an official told us to stop filming.
Yes, guys, elections official in some district of Mozambique told journalists to put their cameras away. And I know what you might be thinking. Maybe there is some sensitive information they do not want the media to be broadcasting, but at the end of the day, that is still not transparency. Turn off the cameras is one of those sentences that can never be followed by anything good. Like, hey babe, we need to talk, or hello YouTube, today we are going to make couples switch phones to test their loyalty. It just never ends well for anybody. It just never ends well for people.
But why you selling, my brother? Relax, go.
The final role important to the CNE is the belief in legitimacy. The CNE's role in counting, verifying, and certifying election results is crucial to establishing legitimacy. When done transparently and without interference, the certification process can reassure citizens that the results reflect their will. How can the process be transparent when the election observers cannot observe elections? By investigating and addressing post-elections complaints, the CNE shows a commitment to addressing grievances, which can help maintain public belief in the system's fairness. Proper handling of dispute reinforces the perception that the electoral process is accountable. This, however, was undermined by various calls for elections not to be rigged. Even the opposition leader, Mondlane, called for there to be no rigging even before the elections. You know you are in a well-functioning democracy when opposition leaders call for non-interference right before elections. It's very, very democratic there. It seems like opposition parties in Mozambique have about as much trust in the system as Premier League clubs trust their referees. Essentially, the protest in Mozambique was sparked by alleged electoral irregularities, distrust in the CNE's impartiality. Mozambique, like most African countries, has a history of contested elections. We just think this is an Africa thing, This is what we have as an identity, okay? Previous elections have also seen allegations of fraud and political interference, making the election issue resonate strongly with a population that is already sensitive to their democratic integrity, because rigging is just what happens every single day, okay? What will be done to address this violence? What can we all people in Africa do to address this, okay? Or what is the plan? Basically, SADC, which is the Southern African Development, the Southern African Development Community has planned an extraordinary summit to address the unrest, aiming to stabilize the situation and restore public confidence. This summit will provide a platform for member states to potentially impose measures to ensure accountability and peaceful resolution. The Zimbabwean president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, is the current chairperson of the SADC Troika. SADC is set to meet on the 16th and the 20th of November. Top of the agenda is the Mozambique issue and resolving the issue. This is just very funny because the president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, has already congratulated Chapo on his election victory. Like, guys, how are we doing this thing? How is he gonna...
You speak about leaders in Africa. Do you think that SADC is playing the role that it's supposed to play?
There's no such a thing. SADC, there's no such a thing. AU, there's no such a thing. It's a group of all people who protect each other. They don't protect the interests of their people. It's a club. It's a gentleman club. They don't care. They don't call each other out.
You heard that right. You heard that right. The chronically betrayed son of the soil, Julius Malema, basically said that SADC is useless in responding to these issues. Who can blame him though? Like, who can blame him? Responses from the surrounding state has been useless. Like, it has been less than ideal, with South Africa officially recognizing the result and congratulating Frelimo on its victory. Like they say, congratulations Frelimo, you did a great job. How did they respond to the violence of the protests since they congratulated Frelimo? Basically, they temporarily closed down the Lembombo border. Okay, they closed down the main border that connects the two countries. The border that connects South Africa and Mozambique was closed down, and that's it for South Africa. South Africa's response to this so far has basically been, if we ignore this problem long enough, maybe it will go away, it will disappear, we'll continue with our lives, which happens to be the slogan of all deadbeat fathers around the world. Hey man, yes you my brother, go see that child this Christmas. He needs a father figure, or she, okay, because all children in the world need a father. And that's a wrap for the show from us today, folks. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I've been Chester Hillbrow, and this has been ANS.